Today, let's talk about illegal moves in chess. If you play a game on ChessKid, illegal moves aren't possible. Well, there you go. There's the world's shortest video. If only it were that easy. I'm actually going to describe to you illegal moves online, and then we get the fun part, talking about illegal moves in an over-the-board IRL tournament. So first, the easy part. On ChessKid, illegal moves are simply not possible because our server doesn't allow it. We've told our server every single rule in the book, and well, it's just not possible to play one. So for example, in this position, if you're white and you grab the king and you try to castle, oops, a retraction because the server says, you didn't say the magic word. Actually, it's not true. It has nothing to do with the magic word. It has everything to do with the fact that the enemy is threatening that square, and in chess, your king cannot castle through a square that is being attacked. We call that castling through check, and it's not allowed, so our server says you can't do it. Okay, now, what if you castle queenside? Take a look, this rook is bearing down on b1, but remember the rule, you are allowed to castle if your opponent threatens a square that your king does not use. Your king doesn't use b1, so your king can travel to c1, the rook jumps over, and the game continues. Now, if we go back to this position, let's just say white makes this random chess move, okay? Now, it is black's turn, and black might play this move f5. One of the most common complaints we get when people write to us is about en passant. They think it's illegal because they've never learned the rule. But we know when a pawn moves 2 squares and is right beside your pawn, you can jump in front of it by going diagonal and taking it off the board, except what? Did we not program our server that this move is allowed? This was a rule change 500 years ago. But taking the pawn en passant would put our own king in check, so the server knows all. You cannot capture en passant here because you can't put your own king in check. So there you go. There's just no way to make an illegal move on ChessKid. Now, there are some illegal things to do, for example, using outside sources during a live chess game, but I wouldn't call that illegal moves, I would just call that illegal practices, right? That's against our fair play. But what about over the board in real life, like in a chess tournament? This is where things get a lot more complicated. Let's pretend black plays this move f5, and white takes en passant, and this pawn leaves the chessboard. Well, we all know that can't happen online, but in real life, let's be clear, we are humans, mistakes happen, and it totally could and very well does happen. If black notices right away, and I hope that he or she does, it's actually pretty simple. You just put the pawn back, give black the pawn back on f5, and as a bonus or a penalty, whichever way you want to look at it, the player playing black usually gets 2 minutes added to the clock. Okay, now, here's where it gets a lot more complicated. First of all, in all cases when the move is retracted, white does have to move the pawn because we play touch move over the board. So white can't take en passant, but white would have to push. Okay, of course that loses the pawn, but hey, that is another type of penalty. You have to move that piece, okay? What about if this pawn captures the black one? We'll take that black one off the board. And neither player notices, and they just keep on making moves. Well, if at any point in the next 10 moves, the player playing black notices, you would go all the way back to the illegal move. For example, let's pretend that black pushes this pawn, and white moves the knight, and black moves the bishop, and white moves the rook, and the player playing black says, hey, your king's been in check this entire time. You are able to go back, as long as you notice, within 10 moves and recreate the position where the illegal move happened. So we put the bishop back, and the rook back, and the pawn back, and the knight back, and then we would retract the illegal move finally. We put the pawn here, and the black one here. Now, really, what you should be doing is writing down the moves to your game, or it's going to be really hard to prove that 10 moves have not gone by. Now, there's another special rule if you're in what's called time pressure, where you have very little time on your clock. In that case, you can only retract up to 2 moves if you spot the illegal move. But wait, it gets even weirder. What if you're playing a blitz tournament over the board, 5 minutes or less to start the game? Usually in blitz tournaments, if you make an illegal move, you lose. If white captures this black pawn en passant, there's 2 ways for black to claim the win. Number one, you can just stop the clock and declare that an illegal move was made. Or you actually are allowed to capture the king. I know that sounds totally weird, but it is simply a method of explaining that your opponent made an illegal move. So we've described illegal moves online, illegal moves in person, illegal moves in time pressure, illegal moves in blitz tournaments, and you know what? There's actually one more. I've only been describing the rules in the United States Chess Federation. There are actually different rules when you're playing internationally under the FIDE system. I don't even understand half of them, so we're not going to cover them here. But the point is, when you play an over-the-board tournament, you really want to get familiar with illegal moves because it will happen in your career, and hopefully you notice them and you know what to do when one happens to you.